The bodies of 9 hikers were found scattered across the snow on a remote mountain in Russia. When rescuers discovered them weeks later, nothing made sense. They found a tent, cut open from the inside. Some of the hikers were barely dressed. Others had severe internal injuries, but almost no external trauma. And then it got even stranger. Some bodies were missing their eyes. One was even missing her tongue. One had a fractured skull, another a twisted neck. Why would they walk out barefoot into minus 30 degrees Celsius? What was so terrifying that they had to cut their way out of the tent? And why was it all ruled as a natural cause of death, like hypothermia, when the bodies told a completely different story? This is the story about the Dyatlov Pass incident. January 1959, the northern Ural Mountains, Soviet Union. A group of young, highly experienced hikers sets out on a winter expedition. They are trained, certified, used to extreme conditions. Their group started off with 10 hikers. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov. Their goal, reach a remote mountain called Otorten. The first days feel normal. They laugh, take photos, write in their journals. We know this because those journals were later recovered at the abandoned campsite. A few days in, Yuri Yudin becomes ill. He didn't want to turn back, but his body forced him to. The pain kept getting worse. Step by step, he realized he couldn't go on. At the time, it seemed like bad luck. In reality, it saved his life. He would become the only survivor. The remaining 9 continue deeper into the mountains. The weather worsens. Stronger winds, freezing temperatures. This is one of the last photos they took, now brought back to life with AI. On February 1st, 1959, they set up camp on an exposed mountain slope. That night, something happens. Something strong enough to make 9 experienced hikers do the one thing they should never do: leave their shelter. Because instead of staying inside, they cut their way out of the tent and step out into minus 30 degrees Celsius. Not fully dressed, some of them barefoot. And the strangest thing, they didn't scatter in panic. They walked away from the camp, down the mountain, into the darkness. They were supposed to return on February 12th, but no message came, no signal, nothing. When they didn't return, concerns slowly began to grow. A search party was organized. Volunteers, students, then the military. On February 26th, they found the tent, still standing, partially buried in snow. But something was wrong. The tent had been cut open from the inside. Everything was left behind. Boots, warm clothing, food, everything needed to survive. Outside, investigators found footprints, not chaotic, showing a group moving away from the tent. The tracks led toward a forest. At the edge of that forest, the first 2 bodies were found, barely dressed, frozen, near the remains of a small fire. From there, more bodies were discovered, scattered between the tree and the tent, including Igor Dyatlov. His body was found facing the tent, suggesting he may have been trying to return, but he never made it. At that point, 5 hikers had been found. 4 were still missing. The search continued, but deep snow made parts of the area unreachable. Months later, when the snow began to melt, the final 4 were found in a ravine, and what investigators found there raised even more questions. These 4 were better dressed, some of which belonged to the hikers found earlier, clothing taken from the dead in an attempt to survive. But their injuries were far more severe. Crushed ribs, fractured skulls. The level of force was described as comparable to a car crash, so powerful that it was considered unlikely to have been caused by another human. And yet, there were almost no external injuries. One final unsettling detail: some of the clothing was found to be contaminated with radiation. The official conclusion was vague, an unknown, compelling force, fitting for a case surrounded by mystery, but far from a satisfying answer. Over the years, many theories have emerged. Some suggest secret Soviet weapon tests. Others point to infrasound, capable of causing panic and disorientation. That same night, multiple witnesses in the area even reported strange, UFO-like lights in the sky. The most widely accepted explanation is an avalanche. But even that raises questions. The slope was relatively gentle. The tent was still standing. There were no clear avalanche traces, footprints were clearly visible, and the group appeared to have walked away calmly, not fled in panic. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains unsolved, and more than 60 years later, no single explanation has ever fully answered what happened. 9 experienced hikers left the safety of their tent in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, and whatever made them do that was powerful enough to override everything they knew about survival. That is the Dyatlov Pass mystery.